Hi guys, are you ready for a review of the Navigator's Tarot of the Mystic Sea? This deck is gorgeous, you guys. It's amazing. It's friggin' weird and bizarre and intuitive and full of crazy symbolism. It's unconventional. It mixes old and modern technology and psychology and Hermetic Kabbalah and Rider-Waite-Smith and Golden Dawn. It's a little bit of everything, and it's a rich deck. I feel like it's one of those decks that you're either gonna love or you're gonna hate, and it's just not for you. But it's definitely a deck for me. I've had so much fun with this deck over the years, but it really is a very unique deck. So it's a US Games deck, came out back in 1997. I guess if I was hard pressed to put some sort of a tarot tradition label to it, I guess the closest, or at least what I would say, is it definitely has a bit more Thoth, Golden Dawn looking kind of majors. The major arcana leans a little bit more towards that way. And then the minor arcana really is, as far as I'm concerned, very Rider-Waite-Smith based. So this might be, a great deck for people who are Rider-Waite-Smith but looking for something a little bit different. It doesn't adhere 100%, but I feel like for the most part, when I look at the minor arcana, I see clear Rider-Waite-Smith references, so that's pretty cool. But one of my favorite things about this deck is the amazing way that Julia Turk is the woman who wrote the book and did all the artwork for this deck, by the way. Julia Turk has chosen to illustrate and interpret her majors. Like they're so elaborate and detailed and dreamy. Like, oh, they're amazing. But Julia A. Turk, is the amazing woman behind the book and behind the artwork on the deck. She's had an interesting life from what I've been able to gather about her. She's studied Kabbalah and tarot very in-depthly, you can tell. But she's also worked on yachts and traveled across the Atlantic, traveled at sea, and you can see that, reflected, that lifestyle reflected back through the cards. It makes this amazing metaphor of how tarot is like this journey into your subconscious, and this journey on the water into the mystic sea. It's this great way of, you actually feel like you're traveling on a boat through the tree of life as you look at each one of these cards. It's like the pathway or the sephira has been illustrated for you, and it comes alive. It's really quite cool. Now she has also, by the way, I've never read them, but I would love to one day. She's written 3 books, novels. It's really one novel, I think, in 3 parts. It's called The Navigator's Dream, and there's volume 1, 2, and 3. If anybody out there has read them, please let me know. I'd really like to know how they are. And from what I can gather, it's a novel about someone's journey with tarot in a more psychological kind of a story, something like that. One of these days I will check them out. I think the 3rd one only came out back in 2012. I think they were being worked on for a really long time. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about here. So there is a lot I want to kind of cover in this video, so I'm not going to go through and really give you my interpretations of the cards or anything like that in this video. I want to show you everything that comes with it, give you a little tour of the book, and at least do a walkthrough of all the cards while I kind of talk. So real quick, I just want to let you guys know that I have had this deck for a really long time without the guidebook. I sat down to start working on this review and I was like, oh yeah, there's a guidebook that I always wanted for this deck. So I decided to order it. However, I made a little mistake. If you're a tarot collector, you've probably done this at some point or another, where you think you're ordering either the book or the deck and you end up getting the other one. So look what I did. I accidentally ordered another copy of this deck, but oh my god, it worked out so good, because now I can actually show you guys what the cards look like in their original form before I trimmed the shit out of them as I did to my own deck. So yeah, that worked out fine. It was only like $10 or something anyway, so I wasn't going to send it back. I figured what we could do down the line is do another giveaway with this deck. The only thing is I've opened it to show you the cards in this video, but other than that, it is brand spanking new. And I do not regret picking up, I did go back and actually order the right thing and got myself the book, and don't regret it for a second. This book has been amazing. What a wonderful, wonderful read. It's crazy. I always wanted to get her interpretation. I mean, look at that front. That is the Empress card, by the way. Like, this is how detailed these cards are. Look at all the symbolism. You got a hippo, you got a butterfly, lots of animals, lots of things going on. And you would think that it might be impossible to figure out what the hell is going on these cards without her explaining every symbol here. But that was half the fun of this deck for me. I'm really actually glad I didn't get this book when I first got the deck. I don't think that you shouldn't get it with the book, with the deck or anything, but I had just a blast, like, kind of figuring out everything for myself. And then recently when I got the book, comparing what I sort of took from the images on the cards to what her intentions really were behind it, I was like, booyah, I wasn't too far off. They're really quite self-explanatory, really, especially if you're well-versed in mythology and esoterica of all different kinds and all that kind of stuff. So before I jump into showing you guys what's really in the book here, I just want to talk about another reason why this deck is so amazing, and it has to do with the way that she orders the cards, and some of her associations, like Hebrew associations and associations with the pathways on the Tree of Life. It is definitely a deck that is based in, like, Hermetic Kabbalah, but she's really changed things up in really, really interesting ways. I don't necessarily agree with them all in the end, but just it's so much fun to understand how she looks at tarot, really. One of the things she does is she looks at her deck and her book as something called the Way of Return. If you studied tarot for a while, it's something you've come across. It's where you, let me pull up this picture here. There it is. It's this idea that instead of moving from the top of the tree down, you move from the bottom of the tree up, the way of return. So where you start in, like, Malkuth, or you start with, like, in the major arcana, like the universe or the world, is your starting point, and you work your way upwards to the Magician and the Fool and all that. And the same thing with the numbers. You work from the sphere of Malkuth up to Keter, right? Instead of, like, starting with the ace here, you're working down towards manifestation. This way, the way of return, you're working up towards spirit. And that's not to say that either way of looking at the tarot is wrong. They're certainly not. You know, the tarot it's cyclical or it's spiral, but I think it's so good to look at things from the other side. I think they're both very valid. And it's all about exploration, and it totally just works both ways, you know. I really think it does. All your cards end up having two different meanings almost, but they're the same meaning. It's really interesting. So she looks at the majors that way, kind of starting with the world and all the minors, or the 10 down to the 1. A lot of decks do that too. So yeah, I think it can be really good looking at things moving in the opposite direction, working your way up the tree, so to speak, the way of return. And it's also, I mean, it's a very accepted and valid way of looking at things. She didn't necessarily come up with this herself, but her deck is definitely based on this idea. However, one of the things that I'm sure you will agree with me in loving about this deck is that the major arcana are not numbered differently. Nothing is numbered differently. You can use this deck the same way you would any other deck. It is still a tarot deck. She doesn't have her Hebrew associations on here, which I really, really appreciated. In fact, there's no numbering at all on the major arcana. So even though her majors sort of follow a more Golden Dawn layout, she even still has, like, strength is 8 in this deck and justice is 11 if you look at the ordering of the cards, but they're not numbered. So you can do whatever you want. So I'm not sure if you can actually get this as a set, the deck and book. The deck does come with a little white book, which I will show you guys. But I did get the book separately, as I told you just recently. And this is sort of how it's laid out. There's a little intro and a lovely little history about the artist and the author, Julia Turk. It starts out with kind of an intro to Kabbalah, an intro to the tarot. She talks about some of the changes she's made, how she's changed some of the Hebrew correspondences. But she even says here, you know, it's the layout obtained is open to conjecture, and it may finally be necessary for other students of the Kabbalah to make further rearrangements. She understands her opinion is not the be-all, end-all, but, you know, we all think our opinions are right. And then, you know, other notable variations contained herein include things like the fact that the Tree of Life begins at the bottom sphere, the Sefer of Malkut, and ascends through the universe, which becomes the first path instead of the 21st. The querent or neophyte wends his way on the quest ever upward through the tree and ends on what is now the 21st card, the Archpriestess. She has changed some of the names of the major arcana, you'll see when we go through. But this symbolizes man's ascent from the material world through the Tree of Life, the inner world of the psyche, to a singular point of supreme consciousness, which we may call divinity or cosmic force, the top sphere of Keter. The whole cycle recommences with the initial downward emanation of the Fool, who retains his original number, which is naught or 0. And she goes on and on from there. So that is really just one reason why this deck is so cool, because it comes at it literally from a whole nother perspective. And it goes from all of the 10s in every suit, all 4, then to the 9s, and there's a good page written on each. She also has this for every single card. For the majors, it's like a really long poem. For the minors, it's a short little beautiful poem. I love when people put out this kind of stuff, because I tend to write them in my journals. I love little poems to put in there for each card. But she gives you an explanation of what is going on the card, and then wonderful divinatory meanings that really just are spot on. Like they're fantastic. And that's it. And then she goes into the court card. She does have some interesting elemental associations that I don't necessarily agree with, for her court cards too. But she gives you a lot of other things too. She gives you the I Ching hexagram. She gives you the Golden Dawn titles. She gives you the astrological associations. Everything's in there. And then back here, she talks about some of the changes to the Hebrew correspondences, and why she made certain changes. And then you get to the major arcana, and she talks about, that's that picture I showed you before. She gives you their the pathway that they're associated with on the Tree of Life. She also gives you their traditional pathways. That's a lot of the stuff that she's made changes to for her own deck, and her traditional associations are like the Golden Dawn associations. And then this is really where the book shines. It starts with the universe here and goes through, what is that, like nearly half of the book still is dedicated to the major arcana. Like I said, there's a much longer, beautiful poem that isn't just a pretty poem about the card. It tells you a lot about the card, and not necessarily even about what's going on in her image, just about the card in general. It's friggin', they're beautiful poems. She gives you keywords. She gives a short little paragraph kind of for each major card with divinatory meaning that is very similar to what you find in the Little White Book. Not exactly the same in every case, but pretty much this is all you get in the Little White Book is her little divinatory meaning without the rest of this like 4, 5, 6 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this one, for the universe card. Of commentary about the card. It's amazing. There's a lot written on each card, and it's good. She explains what the symbols are in great detail, and what's going on each image. These majors are going to blow your mind. Okay, enough about the book. It really is wonderful. I can't recommend it highly enough. So glad I got my hands on it. But anyway, it is a deck based on Hermetic Kabbalah on whole, and there's this huge splash, Mystic Sea splash of like New Age ideas and psychological approaches and Jungian ideas. All that sort of stuff too is really encompassed in the cards. And I'll show you guys what my copy looks like in a second, all trimmed up without the borders, but let me show you sort of how it comes to begin with. First of all, this is the backs, And a quick size comparison. This is your standard tarot size, one of your Centennial Rider-Waite-Smith cards. It is a good half-inch shorter than your standard tarot size, and it's actually just a hair wider, but barely at all. You see that little bit there? It's just a tad wider. It really is about the same width, but just a little bit shorter. Definitely thinner cardstock than this, but not ridiculously thin. It's a nice sturdy cardstock still. And then again, there's your beautiful backs. They are not quite reversible because the Tree of Life has a definite top and a definite bottom. But it really doesn't jump out at you too bad. I don't mind that. The borders on both sides are the same size. And then you do get 2 extra cards with this deck. One little title card. These were great because it let me practice trimming how I wanted to trim them. And then it comes with this other card that has a beautiful poem on it. I actually cut this poem out of this card and glued it into my tarot journal. It's beautiful metaphor of navigating the seas of your subconscious and tarot and everything. It's great. And oh my god, there's your cards. So this is your Fool. Zoom in a little bit on them. The detail on the Major Arcana is mind-blowingly good. It almost has a bit of a 70s kind of a feel to it, doesn't it? I always feel that way a little bit. But they're very dreamlike right from the get-go, right? Like you're just in a dreamland, a fantasy world. It's very surreal. There's animals, a whale and a bird and a horse, all in the same image, in the same landscape. The more you stare at it, the more you will see. Look back there. There's like a woman's face and flames and snowflakes and stars, and there's so many associations to be made, right from all the way down to the burning open third eye of the green Fool and the checkered clothing that he's wearing. Every single thing literally is explained in her book, by the way. Maybe not everything, but a lot of it. So the first thing that you will probably notice here is that there is quite a bit written on the card here. Like I said, you don't have your Hebrew associations, but you do have a key word on every single card. I am not a huge fan of keywords. I do like what she's chosen for the keyword for each one, though. And I certainly work with a number of decks that have the keywords on it. I never cut them off of every deck. The Osho Zen keeps its keyword. What else do I have? Like the Thoth deck, my Rosetta, all that kind of stuff. It's not the end of the world. And there's no numbering for the majors. It just says Fool. It doesn't even say the Fool. However, this little bit of writing down here is the other thing that I just could not wrap my head around. That is really, it's just a copyright. Focus. 1996 US Games, it says. It's a little hard to read in the camera. But I think there is something about the placement of this copyright that I just could not get down with. I think because it's written right below the title of the card, it's like your eye just habitually keeps going and reading the copyright. Every single time I looked at the name of a card, I would continue on to read the copyright, like I had no choice in the matter. So that bothered me right from the beginning. And I, like a lot of people, am definitely bothered by big borders when I feel like I can't, I don't know, in some cases it just takes away from the imagery. And for me personally, this is one of those decks where the artwork is so amazing and there's so much going on that I just wanted to be sucked into it a little bit more and not be taken out by the stark white borders. So this is what I did. Now my Fool looks like that. See what that does? I don't know. This is just one case where the borders really bothered me. See that? Like so much better now, in my opinion. So I'll show you from both decks actually as we go through. Let me just say this: if you do plan on trimming your deck, this is one of those decks where if you trim off everything like I did here, you know, you don't have the title or anything is not included in the picture. It's underneath it. And if you choose to leave the picture and maybe not the keyword, your back will be very odd looking. You'll have a white stripe at the bottom. But I wanted to, when I was getting to know the deck and didn't know what every card was because it looks so different than any other tarot deck, I did that at first. I cut off the keyword because I knew I didn't want that. And I want to get rid of as much of the border as possible. I cut off the sides, but I left a little bit of white at the bottom so I could still have that. And it made for a really ugly back for a while, but until I got used to the deck and knew it by heart, it was the best thing I ever did. I just cut like right above that black line there. But once I was ready, I snipped off the rest of it, and me and this deck were good to go, man. So also real quick before we go through, here is our little white book that comes with this deck. Now you can see the ordering here, it goes Fool and then it goes into Magician. However, the ordering in here is how it is in the book. It goes from Universe to the Fool, and then it goes through the Court cards, and then it goes into the Pip cards, which again start at the 10. She goes through in the entirety of the suit one at a time though. 10 through Ace of Pentacles, 10 through Ace of Swords, and so on and so forth. And then in the back of the little white book there is one spread called the Web spread. It's like past, present, future. Really interesting little spread. There's no other spreads in the book, by the way. There's just that one spread in the little white book. But anyway, Fool. Okay. Here is your Magician. Let's zoom in on them. The word up there is encapsulation. Like, right? What the fuck is going on? It's amazing. Don't they look just so freaking cool? It's so different. Finding decks that reinterpret the major arcana, I think, is just, it's hard to find. There's not a lot of it. You know, they tend to go off and do their own thing sometimes in the minor arcana, and not too much with the majors because they're just classic. They're archetypes, right? But I think that there's a lot to explore there, and she goes there. She explores it. Here is your High Priestess. She's the Archpriestess. You can definitely still see a lot of the Golden Dawn Hebrew associations coming through the card. She's sitting on a camel. The keyword here is dissolution. But they're very, even though they're dreamlike and they're sort of odd, random images, they all, if you sit here and play around with every little detail in this card, it all really works. Even before I had read the book, playing around with this deck was a journey. It was really fun. Nothing felt wrong in the cards. Everything just felt right. You feel things when you look at these images. You have like a visceral reaction. There's your Emperor. What was this keyword? Propulsion. This is really, really good deck. A lot of the people in this deck, or the figures in this deck, are androgynous or sexless, and they're in a variety of colors, from blue to purple to green, to whites, and all shades in between. I love the keyword for this, actually, discrimination. I think that's good. I just find them limiting. Keywords always feel a little limiting, not my favorite. This is the Chariot. One of the things I loved is that she made reference to the chariot as how it can be like your Merkaba, you know, your vehicle of travel, your Merkaba energy field. And she talks about that in the book. Loved it. Here is your Strength card. I thought it was very strange that she kept Strength numbered, no, it's not technically numbered, but as number 8, and with the title of Strength, Omnipotence. I love that keyword so much. But aren't these images just friggin' amazing, guys? They're so good. Here's your Hermit. I love that the Hermit is blue. Doesn't that just work? Exaltation is the keyword. Every animal is appropriate. Every skyline and color is appropriate. It's so funny, actually, looking at these cards with the border. They look so different to me with the border on there. This is your Wheel of Fortune, just called Fortune. The keyword is rotation. Now, this is actually your Justice card. This is equilibration. Equilibration is the keyword. I can't say it. But it's called Destiny in this deck, which is an interesting choice. You can read about it in her book and stuff. That's right. Look at that card. It's weird. It's wonderful. And it feels very intuitive to me. The loons diving and one looking out up here, and all the different things that these animals do and represent. The combination of traditional occult symbols, you know, there's an ankh back there on an anchor over a triangle, like it just, ooh. There's so much to look at and so many places to go, and it's a really fun deck. This is Death, and it is also a transformation. Love that. One of the things I actually really enjoyed about this deck personally was both mine and my wife's, both of our most like dreaded animals, like the animals that really kind of freak us out, are both in this deck. Mine is sharks. I am deathly freaked out by sharks. Oh my god, and there's a totally creepy looking shark in this deck. And while he unnerves me, I like that he's there because he unnerves me. Like, that's so good. And then the other one was actually in the Empress card. My wife is terrified of the hippos. Like, they really freak her out. The way they, like, lurk under the water but can still, like, charge on land. And their jaws opening so big. I thought that was funny that both of our most hated animals were in here. This is Temperance. This is called Art in this deck. Keyword is verification. Take a look at that. Is that the most different and sort of almost odd at first representation of a Temperance card that you've ever seen? You have the anvil and this whole blacksmith metaphor. You know what? Instead of me trying to explain it, I'm going to read a little bit from her book right now. Hang on. So this is after her bit of divinatory meaning. I'm going to start right at the beginning of her commentary. I won't read the whole thing because, like I said, it's pages and she just elaborates on the imagery. But I think that this sort of first paragraph gives you an idea of how she writes and how she explains and how her art even reflects the meaning of these cards amazingly. She says, art here, we're talking about the Temperance card, which is called Art in this deck. Art is one of the most significant cards in the major arcana. The meaning of the word art is not that of aesthetic merit in drawing or painting, or even in other mundane creative activities, but the art of directing the will in a focused manner. Formerly, this card was known as Temperance, which meant the process by which the sword of willpower was forged and tempered by self-analysis. Therefore, this card speaks both of sword play and, because it is associated with Sagittarius, also of archery. Art crosses over death, which joins the two spheres of Hod and Netzach, forming or thus forming the second bridge, the diamond bridge on the middle pillar of the tree of life. Only by perfecting our will can we overcome the fear of death, thereby annulling the process itself. The principle of art is well described by Stephen Hawking when he states that since the universe is an ever-recurring pattern of entropy and disorder, which steadily increases, the intelligence of man is the one energy which can produce order out of that chaos and thus return to its divine source. An alchemical quote, "What nature left imperfect, the art perfects," indicates that the process of alchemy plays a major part in this transformation. The transmutation takes place inside the forge of the blacksmith, who is lame, where the furnace melts down the metal of the gross body and a metamorphosis into finer elements emerges. An old saying tells us, "By hammer and hand all art doth stand," referring to this blacksmith, who up until the most recent times was a vital member of the community. So I'll stop there. But, like, come on. It's so good, you guys. This deck is so good. And I've learned to, like, I'm rediscovering it going through this book again. It's amazing. All right, on to the Devil. I'm a little obsessed with Devil cards lately. I think they're so good. Subjugation. Look at the beauty of this friggin' card. Wait, you have to see it without the borders. Ready? Oh my god. See what I mean about losing the borders? Like, you're really just, you're drawn in differently. Let me show you a few without the borders here. There's your Tower card. Oh my god, look at that Tower card. See what I mean about how you feel like you're actually on the pathway in the Tree of Life? Like, I feel like, especially on cards like, not necessarily like this is your star card, look at that. It's a little bit darker than a lot of star cards, but it's like this dawning in the night sky. Love. Yeah, like you feel like you're in a landscape on this pathway, on this world that is so foreign yet familiar. It's like a dream. Every single card feels like a dream, like a dreamscape. That was your moon. This is your sun card. Isn't that beautiful? Let me jump back to the other one, show you the keywords and stuff. That was your star. It was revelation for the star. That was good. Gratification for moon. And then sun is organization. Interesting. And then realization for your judgment card or your eon card. And then your world card, or your universe in this deck, consecration. Look at the alligators, the world and the alligators' mouths. A lot of times there's another person on the cards representing like you, or the neophyte, or the initiate. You still have your naked dancing Anima Mundi, Sophia. Beautiful. And we're going to go on into our minors. Looks like she starts with the Suit of Swords first here. You still have keywords for even all your court cards. And this is your King of Swords. The kings are all standing and crowned, and your queens are all seated and crowned. Look at that Queen of Swords. I love this card. Leaping across. Subversion is her keyword. Your knights are all on horseback. Penetration for the Knight of Swords. And your pages are all like standing or doing something. At first, before I cut off the names of everything, I was very easily confused by the pages and the aces in this deck. But I did eventually notice, and you'll see when we get to it, that the aces, the people on the aces are very like white looking. And all the court cards even are much more elaborate. They're much more detailed. Not quite as much as the Major Arcana. That's the most detailed of all the images, just the Major Arcana. And then it would go the court cards, and then to the pips, to the 1s through 10s. They're a little bit less elaborate in their styling. Here you can see, like, there's just not as much going on. It's a little bit simpler. But yeah, you start with your 10 and move down through the aces. Here's your 10 of Swords. See what I mean? Does that look a little Rider-Waite-Smithy? But you're still in like this weird fantasy landscape. Very surreal. And there's your 9 of Swords. Hey, very easily relayed back to traditional Rider-Waite-Smith looking things. The keyword is desperation. So I was actually really surprised that there's not a ton of information out there on this deck. I was hard-pressed to find any other reviews on YouTube. I found a bunch of videos of people just showing the amazing artwork of this card. I love that thief. Isn't he good? There's like a mirror on the wall here, and you can see in the mirror there's like a hooded figure watching him. Like, is that his higher self? Or, you know, there's so much cool stuff that can be said here. This is your 6 of Swords. Ascendancy is the keyword. Oh, this is something I actually liked that I didn't really make that connection to before I got the book just recently. I always liked that there's actually a little submarine in the background there. You see that? I like that there was that reference to the Rider-Waite-Smith on a boat kind of thing, although he's doing something different. I liked that. But this is a reference to science over here, basically, with the bell and the candle, and she explains it all in her book. But that was something, a little detail that had always sort of eluded me. I didn't really know what the fuck was going on over there. But she pulls it all together into how it relates to, you know, the Golden Dawn view of this card as science. Six of Swords, destruction in the Five of Swords here. What was I saying? Oh yeah, but there's just not, you know, a ton of info out there. There's a bunch of reviews up, kind of scattered throughout. But this deck has been around for a really long time now, and I am surprised that it is not way more popular than it is. It is such a meaty, meaty good deck. It was certainly designed with divination in mind. These cards are definitely meant to be used. But they were also created for meditation and for, you know, cultivating a journey of self-discovery, you know, or a journey of self-knowledge. And that's what they do. They take you on a fucking journey. They transport you. See what I mean about the aces? He's kind of this gray clay color, I like to think of him as. But I would get him and the page confused when I tore that off. Or right before I tore that off. I didn't take that off until after I had it all figured out. That would have driven me nuts. All right, into our wands. We start with the king and restriction. I love how she depicts the suit symbols. They look exactly the same in every single one. The wands are all like this almost sci-fi kind of a scepter thing. Here the sun is going into it, or the wand is going into the sun. And everything still maintains this backdrop of being at the sea or close to the sea in some way. Or under the sea. It's neat. Here's your Page of Wands. Equivocation. They're very expressive for how simple they are. See what I mean about the androgyny in a lot of the figures? This is there's nothing down there. He's like Barbie doll, Ken doll, private parts. But I like that. That one does look a little bit more masculine to me, and some of them look a little bit more feminine, and you get kind of everything in between. I think more often they look a little bit more masculine in how they're shaped and things. Like this guy clearly just looks like a guy to me. Yeah, he is. He's got a man chest. But, you know, I think there's a decent mix of sexes here. There's your Seven of Wands. How's that for a nightmare? We've all had that nightmare, right? That giant tidal wave coming at you. But doesn't that just work beautifully for the Seven of Wands? Fortitude is the keyword there. So good. Excuse me. Here's your Six of Wands. Triumph. On his horseback. Very familiar looking. There's your Five of Wands. Contention. Actually, it's a good keyword. I like that one. There's your Four of Wands. Delight. And there's your Three of Wands. Cohesion. That's one of my favorite cards. Look at that. Cooking the egg. So good. When I do the Three of Wands video, you'll definitely see this card. This is one of my favorite Three of Wands. It's so appropriate. It's so good. Here is your Two of Wands, Dominion. I think I showed this in the Two of Wands video, didn't I? I enjoy that one too. And then your Ace of Wands, the sun shining right behind him. It's actually interesting that in every single suit. There's amazing little touches like that throughout the entire deck. All right, onto our cups. There's your King of Cups. The kings are standing and they are crowned. He's wearing just a giant cup is his crown, which is really cool. Overflowing with water. I love this Queen of Cups with her dolphins. See what I mean about how the courts are definitely a little bit more elaborate. I think if the whole deck had this sort of a look, the court cards and the pip cards, I might not have had to trim them. I just literally could not focus on anything going on in the major arcana because it was so busy. Busy in a good way. I don't feel like it's too busy, but it's busy. There's a lot going on. This I have no problem looking at with borders, not at all. Those cards, I couldn't do it. I'm not crazy, right? Tell me I'm not crazy. 10 of Cups, an accomplishment. Isn't that beautiful? They're just floating away. Here is your 9 of Cups. Come on. This is really quite a different representation from the Rider-Waite-Smith, but I like the idea here. Maybe it's he's overdone it a bit, which could be part of the Rider-Waite-Smith too. Yeah, maybe we should do a Rider-Waite-Smith side by side for the minors for this deck. That might be interesting. Seclusion for the 8 of Cups. Delusion for the 7 of Cups. It works, but I still feel like it narrows things down a bit too much in a way that images and scenes don't necessarily do. Felicity for the 6 of Cups. Even on these simple cards, there's a lot of detail to look at, you know, the way the cups are arranged, the way the figures are interacting, and all the detail behind. There's broken bars on the window back here, and roses, and 2 candles, and it's interesting. There's your 5 of Cups. Love, love, love this card, too. Doesn't that just work for the 5? You still have, you know, some cups flipped upside down and some are floating away, and he's caught up in this fishing net and literally like drowning underwater. There's even a boat back here on a little island. Definitely get this feeling of the vastness of the sea, or the vastness of your unconscious, your subconscious. I even really love like the crazy, odd, otherworldly, maybe futuristic sci-fi outfits that these peeps are wearing. It's like they walked right off of like a Star Trek set or something. Look at his clothes. It's like it looks metallic, and it looks like there's eyes on it, and weird helmets and headdresses, and oh, it's just good. Discontent for the 4 of Cups, that was. Abundance for the 3 of Cups. See what I mean? We're back to a 3, and they're like this dark gray, slightly lighter gray. Harmony in the 2 of Cups, a familiar image. And I love this ace. Isn't that beautiful? Immersion, it's called. And he's like this light gray, almost white figure. With his cool, maybe slightly Egyptian-looking outfits. I love the purple sky in this one, too. And then your King of Pentacles. It really is, I gotta say, it's a very readable deck. It was not one that you can, or that I could pick up and just work with right off the bat. It took some getting to know. It took some study. But like I said, it was even more fun without the book at first. Your Knight of Pentacles, Evolution. I really like this page too. Doesn't he feel like he's just about to set off on an adventure? I love that. It's a little piggy back there. Ten of Pentacles, Affluence. Your 9, Acquisition. He's purple. Economy for the 8 of Pentacles. Variance for the 7 of Pentacles. Compensation for the 6 of Pentacles. But yeah, it reads very intuitively. I think just because of the nature of the imagery being such a symbolic, dreamlike kind of artwork anyway. I like this one, the 3 of Pentacles. That's the one on the back of the box. It shows that really old looking computer. But there's this interesting blend of old and new. Which is the world we live in, I guess, too, huh? Two of Pentacles, permutation, and generation for the Ace of Pentacles. Isn't that beautiful? And then back to our Fool. That is the Navigator's Tarot of the Mystic Sea, you guys. Oh my god. Now, that is the copy I guess I will be doing a giveaway of at some point. I'm kind of glad that happened. That's a fun deck to give away. And this is what my copy looks like now. All trimmed up nice and neat. I even gave him sort of big rounded corners. I don't know, I was just messing around. But I kind of like it that way. See what I mean? All the images, I feel like they just pop. They really, really pop. And then once you get rid of all the titles and everything too, the back works out kind of perfectly. And I've heard it said by a lot of reviewers and different people when talking about this deck, how they feel like it's more of a deeper kind of a deck where it's not necessarily good for everyday mundane readings, love life, career life, and all that kind of stuff. Just like they say the same thing about the Marielle. I think if anything, this deck certainly lends itself more towards those types of readings than the Marielle, but I don't see it that way. I can read with this deck for any old thing. There's so much. I feel like if anything would lead you away from that, it might be the majors, right? But even though they're in this sort of odd landscape, they're still very real. I think they have a lot to say about anything in life. As above, so below. I can't. I just want to keep looking at these cards. They make me so happy. They run the gamut of emotions. Like, it's dark, it's light, it's scary, it's beautiful, it's happy, it's sad. It's like, it's everything. It's a tarot deck. It's all of life. Life is the tarot. I'm gonna shut the fuck up now. By the way, I'm pretty sure that this deck is like out of print, but I don't think you'd have a hard time finding it anywhere. I see it up on Amazon all the time. It's available through lots of third-party sellers. I wouldn't spend $100 on it. I see it go for, like I said, I got mine for just $10 on eBay, and there were lots of them up there. But I see it more commonly go for like 20 or 30, sort of around there. But keep your eyes peeled, eBay and Amazon and, you know, wherever. And the same goes for the book. It's really not very hard to find. You might just have to hunt around a little bit. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Navigate the sea of the unconscious in a quest to discover the secrets of life. Booyah!